Hello, my name is Matt, and I'm just going to give you an overview of the Functional Skills English course and how that's delivered virtually. So you will have one virtual session a week, and that will either be 2 hours or 2.5 hours long. And that will be, it will be at the same time each week, and the login details will be the same. You'll be sent a link to a Zoom room, and you'll just log in and complete some work there. Now, in terms of actually accessing the course, in terms of equipment, the best thing to use is a computer or a laptop, really. That seems to be the best way to get the most out of it, really. You can use a tablet for sure. People do use tablets, but I think in terms of accessibility, in terms of being able to quickly switch between one thing and another, which you may have to do, a laptop or a desktop computer does tend to work a little bit better. You will also need a microphone and a headset. Built-in microphone headset like mine sort of thing is probably for the best, really, because if you're relying on the microphone built into a device, it can sometimes pick up lots of sound in the room and create a bit of feedback. But give that a go and see how that works, really. Some devices work fine, others don't. You will also need a webcam, obviously, and it will be expected that you have that on during the session so you can communicate, really. But it really is absolutely essential you have got a microphone and headset, because you need to be able to hear what we're saying and also sort of communicate back to us. Obviously, a good internet connection is important, so just basic sort of households, really. Do try and sit as close to your router at home as you possibly can if you're accessing from home. That sort of thing, really. In terms of software, you probably want to download the Zoom app because it gives you a bit more functionality. It allows you to do more things on it. You will also probably want a word processor of some kind, and your tutor will be able to let you know free word processing software as well if you don't want to spend money on Word or haven't got access to it. Open Office is very good. Apache Open Office, you just have to Google it and download it. It basically does all the job that things like Word and PowerPoint and whatever would do. It's also not a bad idea to have some sort of PDF editor, because then you can sort of edit PDF worksheets to come out to you and return them. I use Adobe Acrobat, the free version, works fine for me. And so there we go. That's in terms of equipment and stuff. So once weekly sessions. If you can't make it, it is really important you let us know. We can set up work for you to be getting on with in terms of sort of distance learning. So we could potentially send you over some resources, explain what's covered in the session. And also it means that instead of sort of going down as an unexplained absence, we've got a reason for it. Because attendance is really important. It sort of ties into my funding and stuff like that. So we really do need to make sure that people are contacting us if they're not going to be here for a session. And you do need to try and make sure you attend as many sessions as possible. It is much easier to learn and take on board stuff if you're in a classroom, if you're getting that regular contact with a tutor. That is really super important. Okay, so another thing I do want to mention, really, before we get into the actual content of the course, is additional learning support and additional learning needs. Now, you absolutely do not have to disclose any of this, but your tutor will find it helpful, you'll find it helpful, and potentially you may get some extra support in the exams. So things like dyslexia, autistic spectrum disorder, ADHD, dyspraxia, dysgraphia, all those sort of things that could contribute to someone having a bit of a harder time getting to grips with the course content, doing the working session, and potentially sitting the exam as well. Those sorts of things we can potentially make make reasonable adjustments for. So for instance, if I've got dyslexic learners, I may send them out some tasks a little bit early, so just get an overview of what the course content is. Also, as I said, it can potentially lead to things like a bit of extra time in the exam, so you've got that time you need to process stuff and actually work towards the level that you are working towards. Okay. Also, things like sort of ongoing chronic pain could potentially count as well, because it could mean that you need to sort of take short breaks and around and stretch your legs. I've had learners before who have been on medication for something or another, and it's sort of give them a bit of brain fog. So, we can make potential adjustments for that as well. Okay, so basically anything that's potentially standing in the way of you getting on with the lessons and also sort of completing that exam, it's a good idea to let us know, although obviously you're under no obligation to do so. Right, so broadly speaking, the functional skills English level 1 and level 2 is assessed by exam when it comes to reading and writing skills, and it's internally assessed when it comes to speaking and listening. There are 3 components. So you've got your reading, you've got your writing, and you've got your speaking and listening. And of course, there's overlap between them, but they're assessed in 3 different assessments. Now, with functional skills, unlike with the GCSE, for example, is modular. And what that means is, say you pass your speaking and listening, you pass your reading, but you don't quite get enough marks for your writing exam. What happens is you just resit the writing. You wouldn't have to resit all 3. And we have exam windows running roughly once a month. And we are trialing online exams and computer-based exams as well this year. So it's a possibility you get to do that as well. And obviously, you'll be notified in plenty of time before you go for the exam. It will be a result of a discussion between you and the tutor, and both of you are feeling that you're ready to go in for that exam. Now, as for the exams themselves, I'll get onto those and show you those in a little bit. But I just wanted to go over the sort of fitness to the sessions, really. As I said, they're virtual, they're online. Your first session will likely include a one-to-one tutorial as well. And you'll have those once, basically at least once a term. You'll have an opportunity to talk to your tutor one-on-one and potentially raise anything you're struggling with. Of course, you can always email your tutor as well if you're struggling with something. And one thing I will say is, whatever you're struggling with, if you can, please do let us know, because we want the same thing as you want. We want you to get through your exams. We want you to get your qualification. We can make adjustments. Burying your head in the sands and hoping some particular issue, I don't know, whether it's something like your work shifts have changed, so you can't attend some of the sessions, hoping that will go away. It won't. If you let us know, though, we can potentially build in something to support you with that. Okay, be it maybe changing class times or a little bit more of a focus on a particular topic that you're struggling with or something like that. We can always try and sort of accommodate you. And I'm very aware this is especially relevant for you guys, given your work lives, really. That's absolutely fine. Right, so we're going to have a quick look now at what the actual assessments at the end of the course look like. Okay, so I'll start with the reading one. This is reading level 2. Level 1 and level 2 are very similar in the way they're assessed with the reading and the writing. The broad difference is that there are higher level skills tested at level 2. So yeah, that's about it really. So what you'll get is you'll get some source documents, and these will be 2 texts that are thematically linked. So they'll be on the same broad theme, and then you'll get a bunch of questions on that, and you'll complete those questions. Now those questions will be to do with reading comprehension, so drawing information from the text and applying it directly. They will also deal with things like how language is used, so how a reader might persuade someone to do something, or how a reader might how a writer might lay the text out with bullet points, say, or a headline and pictures to sort of get your attention and get your reading. It will also deal with things like the writer's opinion, maybe how that opinion differs from different texts. Bias and fact also come into it as well. With the writing paper, what you'll have is you'll have 2 written tasks to complete. You are not allowed a dictionary for this. I know back in the old days of functional skills, students were allowed a dictionary. No longer allowed a dictionary in the writing paper. However, as a trade-off, they're less strict when it comes to the spelling. So it basically evens out. And yet this is basically what you're assessed on. So they tell you up front what you're assessed on, and obviously your tutor will be going through and explaining what things mean and working on the review. And yeah, you get 2 writing tasks here. They're good. The thing with functional skills is the key is functional. So these are functional documents that you'd read in your day-to-day life. So things like articles, letters, emails, reports, blogs, that sort of thing. They're not going to ask you to write the start to a novel, for instance, or anything like that you'd otherwise typically deal with at GCSE. You're assessed on spelling, punctuation, and grammar, as well as your ability to sort of structure a text, so sort of come up with ideas, link them together, and produce a cohesive text that is appealing to your reader and is correct for the situation you've been given. So that's the writing. And speaking and listening, you have 3 speaking and listening tasks to complete. The first is a discussion on an unfamiliar topic. So a formal discussion on an unfamiliar topic. It could be things like, I don't know, should the minimum price of alcohol per unit be raised? It could be things like how to encourage mental health awareness at the workplace. It will be topics like that, topics that people are aware of, but will need to do a bit of research to sort of discuss fully. You will also be expected to give a presentation on the topic of your choosing. You'll run that past your tutor first, obviously. And that can be on broadly anything with some anything with some sort of constraints, really, I would say, really. But I've had some very strange and interesting presentations before, and so it's a bit where you can sort of talk about something that's your passion, your interest. So it's really quite nice in that way. And you also lead a discussion on somebody else's presentation. So once they've given a presentation, you give a little talk on it and sort of work on from there. Right. So that is assessed by tutors, who then send those off to the IQA. And once you have completed your speaking and listening, that's been assessed and done. Once you've completed your writing and your reading, they've been marked in the past, that's when you get your certificate. And usual turnaround is about a month. Okay. I'm just going to stop sharing now. So speaking and listening will actually be assessed virtually. We'll be doing it within a Zoom room like this one. And it is very important, obviously, that especially on that day, you have a working headset, you have a working microphone, and you have a working webcam. Your tutor will be giving you plenty of warning to lead up to this, so don't worry, it won't be sprung on you at the last minute or something. Because apart from anything else, you'd be expected to go away and research these and potentially put together some sort of text, or even maybe a PowerPoint if you want to for your presentation. So there we go. That's that's basically how you're assessed and what the course covers. One thing I will say as well is there will be self-study, and each tutor does this differently. So basically, depending on the tutor, that could be work that you started in class that you then go on to continue and maybe complete something a little bit extra. Or the way some tutors do it is they sort of set you up in a virtual learning environment. I'm just going to show you the one I use with my learners now. So this is our Moodle, which you'll be enrolled on, and this is the course that I set my learners up on. So for instance, you've just got a repository of resources there, and I might direct people to, say, for instance, fact, opinion, and bias if I notice they're struggling with it, or I know we're going to be doing facts, opinion, and bias soon. And you've got things like videos here, you've got quizzes, and these will all be marked even by the computer itself if it's a quiz, or if it's an assessment, myself or whoever else has set it. Okay. So you'll be set up in that model as well, and you'll be expected to put in roughly as much time in terms of sort of self-study as you do with your actual sessions. Okay, and the way it broadly works is self-study is in practice to either sort of have a go at what you've learned in the session, or it could be to sort of introduce a new topic that is going to be discussed and gone into further detail in the following session. And again, this is kind of why it's important to maintain as much attendance as you possibly can, because quite often lessons will link together. So something you learned about in session 1, you're then going to go on to explore in greater detail in session 2, and you do not really want to fall behind on that. So again, just to sort of recap, attendance, super important. You'll get your Zoom room link once you sort of join. Equipment, laptop or computer is best, tablet's okay, phone I would only recommend it as a one-off if you absolutely cannot access it anywhere else. Headset, mic, webcam. If you've got any ALS needs, you do not have to disclose, but it can be really helpful if you do, for yourself, for the tutor, and essentially getting you a bit of extra time or extra support in the exams. 3 assessments, you've got your reading, your writing, and your speaking and listening. Speaking and listening is 3 different discussions that you either lead or take part in or present. Reading is a couple of documents and asking questions on them, and writing is being asked to write 2 functional texts. You will be expected to do some self-study, and there will be extra resources on hand to support you with that. And finally, if there is a problem, please do let us know. Please do contact us, because potentially we can sort it out or work in something. So there we go. Thank you.